In the quiet town of Ode, nestled among rolling hills and faded picket fences, life moved slowly. People knew each other by name. Doors were rarely locked. And Margaret Holloway was one of the town's most cherished figures, a soft-spoken, kind-hearted schoolteacher who taught generations of children at the local elementary school. But all that changed on a chilly morning in October 1996. On the morning of October 12th, Margaret never showed up for class. Her porch light, oddly, was still on. When the school called and got no answer, a concerned coworker stopped by her home. The front door was unlocked, but Margaret was nowhere to be found. Inside, there were signs of an ordinary morning. A cup of half-drunk coffee, a newspaper folded open to the crossword, and her purse sitting on the kitchen table. There was no forced entry, no sign of struggle, no body. Police first suspected a robbery gone wrong, but nothing had been taken. Not the TV, not her jewelry, not even the cash in her wallet. It was as if Margaret had simply vanished into thin air. The local sheriff's department launched a full-scale search. Bloodhounds combed the nearby woods. Flyers were posted throughout Ode and beyond. Margaret's face was on every telephone pole in the county. In the early days, her disappearance was treated as a tragic fluke, a random crime in an otherwise peaceful place. But as investigators dug deeper, the narrative began to shift. Margaret had been living a double life. According to her phone records, she had been in regular contact with a man named Elliot Granger, a married real estate developer from a nearby town. Elliot denied anything inappropriate, calling her just a friend. But text recovered from Margaret's computer told a different story. One filled with emotional confessions, veiled threats, and arguments about secrecy. Neighbors also mentioned strange behavior in the weeks before she vanished. Late-night visitors, hushed arguments through the walls, and one incident where Margaret was seen crying in her car for over an hour before walking inside. And then came the break investigators weren't expecting. Police learned that Margaret had recently changed her will, leaving a sizable portion of her modest estate to a former student, now an adult. Lena Cross, a troubled young woman with a history of mental illness and a known obsession with Margaret. When questioned, Lena said Margaret had been like a mother to her. She also claimed the teacher had told her she was afraid, that someone had been following her, watching her. Police searched Lena's apartment and found a journal filled with disturbing entries. One passage read, "She promised she'd never leave me, but I know she's lying. I know she's hiding something. I'll make sure she tells me everything before she disappears again." Despite the chilling words, no direct evidence ever linked Lena or Elliot to Margaret's disappearance. Fast forward to 2018, when Ode's police department received a grant to digitize old case files. A cold case analyst noticed something unusual in the photos from Margaret's abandoned car, a partial fingerprint that had never been entered into modern databases. When scanned through AFIS, it returned a hit. The print matched Daniel Connors, a former handyman and ex-convict who had done odd jobs around Margaret's house the summer she disappeared. At the time, Connors had a minor drug charge, but nothing serious enough to raise suspicion. He had since moved to Arizona and changed his name, Police Garlight. Daniel Connors was arrested in March 2019. Under interrogation, he cracked. He claimed that Margaret had discovered his past and threatened to expose him to neighbors and police. She had allegedly caught him snooping in her bedroom, and in a panic, he attacked her. He said he didn't mean to kill her, but admitted to beating her unconscious, placing her in the trunk of her own car, and dumping her body in the woods. After days of searching, authorities located Margaret Holloway's remains in a shallow grave near where the car had been abandoned. DNA and dental records confirmed her identity. Daniel Connors was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Candle. In the aftermath, the town of Ode held a memorial service 23 years after Margaret had vanished. Her former students, now adults, gathered in the school auditorium where she once taught. Stories were shared. Candles were lit. Her classroom, long closed, was reopened for one final tribute. What had seemed like a case of a woman caught in scandal turned out to be something far more tragic, an act of violence by someone hiding in plain sight. Ode would never forget Margaret Holloway, nor the painful lesson that even in the quietest towns, the darkest secrets can lurk just beneath the surface.